atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
This town needs an enema.
Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?
When Gotham is ashes, you have my permission to die.
Gotham, this is your liberation.
My mother warned me about getting into cars with strange men.
This isn't a car.
20 years in Gotham. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way? He has the power to wipe out the entire human race.
Tell me, do you bleed? You will.
I want you to tell all your friends about me.
What are you?
He's a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight. I'm Batman.
Let the games begin.
Welcome to the Batman on Film podcast. Here is your host, Bill Jett Ramey, co-host Rick Shew, and the BOF Roundtablers, Justin Kowalski and Ryan Haas.
Hey now, you are listening to Volume 2, Episode 82. This is the Jason Witten episode of the Batman on Film podcast. Batman on Film is a proud member, as well as the sponsor of the Batman Podcast Network. Check out all the shows at BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. I am your host, as well as the founder of Batman on Film, Bill Jett Ramey. With me today is the co-host of this here podcast, Ricky Joe Shew from Mesquite, Texas. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Bill. What's going on, man? You're gonna say my full. If you're gonna say my redneck inbred full name, man, I'm gonna have to play the part up a little bit.
It's Rick Shew, thespian.
So it's raining. It's raining here in Plano, Texas, and there's some wind and some water hitting my window, which is right next to my little office/studio. So forgive me if there's any noise picking up, guys. But how's weather in Houston, Bill?
Hot. But it has rained. It rained this week, dude, and so that was nice. I'm dealing with lawn service people in the neighborhood, but so I apologize to anybody listening if you hear any of that. But I think they're about on they're not like at my window anymore. I think they're across the street. So anyway,
did we just inadvertently reveal to our audience that we're not all in multi-million-dollar studios recording this right now?
I believe we let. Yeah, I'm sorry. Let that slip. Also with me today are the great BOF Roundtablers, Justin Kowalski and Ryan Haas. Ryan, congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Dad.
Thank you.
Yeah. How's that going for you?
I am tired, and I have had no sleep. If you've looked at my Twitter over the past week, there's usually a 4:30 to 5 a.m. gif of like Donald Duck waking up or trying to go back to bed or something. It's my only way of coping with this, but it's good. It's good. Little Nora, she's doing fine, and she is absolutely delightful, and she's great. So I'm having a good time with it.
With Jake, he had acid reflux as an infant. I mean, like a newborn, and he had to sleep propped up, and there was always this fear of him choking and all that. So you even if you were asleep, you weren't really asleep because you were subconsciously waiting to hear something. So I understand. Batman on Film, authoritative, definitive. The dadgum original. That's what it is. It's the dadgum original. Right, Rick? Right, Rick?
Yeah.
Come on now.
That's going on the shirt right there.
Yes,
that's the shirt.
Oh, that has to be. Yeah, that would be awesome.
It needs to be inserted, boys. like the Joker inserted it, like you drew it.
We got a lot. Look, guys, if you're listening, we are going to do Dark Knight Rises podcast this month to mark whatever you want to, how you want to say it, the 5th anniversary of the release of Christopher Nolan's last entry in the Dark Knight trilogy, and we are ready to go with the first episode of our top best comic book movie, superhero movie scenes / segments. It's going to be in a bracket form. We're bringing in about 10 or 12 each. We're going to debate. We're going to get to a top 8. and then we're going to put it up for vote and get to the number one. So that's all coming. This is kind of sort of an emergency podcast. We were going to try to do it on, was it Thursday? I guess Thursday, whenever, but couldn't get our schedules working, but we're going to do it today. It involves the Batman and Matt Reeves, and the fact that Matt Reeves has come out and said while he was doing press for his Apes movie that they've tossed out the Ben Affleck, Jeff Johns, and I guess you can throw in Chris Terrio too, because didn't he do a polish of that?
Yeah.
Well, they've thrown that out, and they are starting from scratch. He said when he was asked by MTV, it was Josh Horowitz actually, on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast about the status of the script, or if he was picking up, going to continue on with the original script. He said, no, it's a new story. We're starting it again. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be really cool. Which to me, made me do a happy dance, because I am a proponent of filmmakers being able to have a lot of creative control. And so if you're going to bring in a guy like Matt Reeves to do Batman, you should give him as much creative control as he wants. And apparently that's the case here. So Rick, what's your take, dude?
My take is I'm excited as well. I think that we've talked about this constantly, that we want these films to be very much director-driven, that they get to see their true vision, see the light of day. And because when a director is able to do that and really put in their heart and soul in something, it's when we get some of the best films in cinematic history. It just is. You can look back and you can see the history of a lot of films in terms of how they were handled and who wrote them and what kind of input the directors had and how much power and control they had. A true director's vision coming to see the light of day in a film is a good thing for a film, because really it is a director's and editor's medium anyway.
Yes.
It is. It's not necessarily a writer's medium. It's certainly not an actor's medium. It is a director and editor's medium. And I say editor because that's important, because the editor does a lot of pretty crucial things behind the scenes to make a film come together and give it its pace and whatnot.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're spot on, dude. Yeah.
So I for one am excited about that. I mean, look, we talk about Batman Returns, and I'm not here to crap on that movie. If you love that movie, like Justin loves that movie, more power to you. That is a Tim Burton film unapologetically. And you know what? And if you love it, you should say, you know what? I love the fact that Tim Burton kind of had his his day in the sun, right? While he was in the studio. That's what that movie is. That's a Tim Burton film.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Batman Returns, but I will definitely defend his right to make that film. 100%.
I'd say the same thing about BVS too, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some people would argue that the studio got in the middle of that. That's why we didn't have the director's cut as the original release and everything. That's why I avoided that one, because that one might have a little bit of debate with it.
It does, but it's a good point, I think, to make.
But you are right. I mean, to be fair for me, I think the director's cut is a little overrated in terms of how much it changes the film. I don't think it fundamentally changes anything. I think it's really essentially the same movie. But it is a very much a Zack Snyder film, for better or worse. And so that's great. And quite frankly, the Nolan films those are Chris Nolan movies from beginning to end, all three of them. So I want to see that in a Matt Reeves film. And by doing so, look, he looked at the script that was there and said, this is not my vision. And the studio said, what do you want to do? I want to start over on the script, and rock and roll, do it. And I think that's great. Look, I haven't seen Apes yet, but the reviews are coming in, and what I'm seeing a lot on social media is like people are leaving the theater and they're in awe of this movie, and almost every one of them are saying, I just can't wait for this guy to direct a Batman movie. Now we're going to get him directing a Batman movie with a script that he's inspiring, and I think that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. What do you think there, Justin?
Yeah, same. I mean, nothing new. I think it's great when someone wants to come on a project and they get to do exactly what they want. The only thing that I was thinking about was he's coming on this project and he has his vision for it. His vision does have to work in the confines of what they've kind of laid out. I mean, they have a universe and they have introduced certain elements to the story. So he can't completely throw out some of the history that's been established. Maybe he can, I don't know. I just think that as he comes in, does he have a story based upon, you know, is it influenced by anything that DCEU has already done? Or is he just like, I don't care about any of that. I'm just going to do what I want. And we don't know that. And there's part of me that hopes that, you know, he addresses some of the things that have been brought up. Like, you know, there's a dead Robin. I would love to see how he approaches that or even explains that story. So yeah, I'm excited. I want him to do what he wants, you know. If they're putting you know, thumbs on these directors, that does not make a good film in the end. So yeah, yeah, again, like what Rick just said, everyone's pumped on Matt Reeves right now. Like you're hearing everything is super positive, and it's kind of annoying when they're like, oh, they're talking about apes right now, and I'm sure he wants to celebrate in apes, but I mean, it is cool to see that there's a lot of, we're in good hands, you know, a lot of faith and trust is being put on him as a director. And yeah, I'm excited to see what he does. And I'm really, again, I think I said this last time, like this is going to be the fun time when we start getting all the information out and seeing what they're doing and who's going to be in it and a part. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Ryan, let me ask you this way. What does this say for all the people who were like, well, yeah, that script is ready and they're ready to roll and they're going to use that old script. Remember that we went through that not too long ago with a segment of fandom and to kind of like they're trying to prove a point again that everything was fine and dandy.
Yeah. I mean, for as far as that whole thing goes, you know, there's a segment of fandom that really does. I mean, we want the film to be good the same way they do, but we're trying to do our best to kind of be honest and truthful about, hey, this is what's happening, and we're just laying out the facts. And with the whole script thing, it was actually kind of interesting how that kind of played out because, you know, there were speculations when Reeves came on board that he would start over from scratch. But, you know, Mark Hughes wrote an article on Forbes talking about how all of his sources said that the film was going to be starting from scratch. And then we had I think Justin Kroll from Variety like tweeted that no, WB's happy with the script and Ben just turned in a draft and stuff like that. And that's what a lot of the fanboy type people used to say, oh, you're wrong and stuff like that. But even at the time, I told everybody that would listen at the time that, oh, you know, I know he's saying that, but if he's not prepared to make an official Variety article about it, I don't think it's something that you should take to the bank. You know, a tweet like that's not something to kind of take. And it's way too early to even say, you know, this is a definite thing. I mean, and all these things are snapshots in time. And at this point, what we had speculated has come to pass, and Reeves is starting from scratch. So,
well, it was obvious. And I mean, I was told that.
Yeah.
If him taking that job, he was going to want to do his own thing.
That makes sense.
And, you know, Rick, do you want to, you know, I know I'm the only teacher here, but would you like to teach a lesson about what the word confirmed means?
Well, as someone said on Twitter yesterday on my page, that and as far as the DCEU is concerned, she does not consider confirmation until the cameras roll, which I thought was kind of funny. So maybe that's our barometer, right? But yeah, you know, a confirmation is something that is official via the studio and or via the main players, right? But it also, it's sometimes it's semantics. What does that mean? Because, you know, Ben Affleck can go on Jimmy Kimmel and say, hey, I'm directing the Batman, and that's quote unquote confirmed. And then he wasn't. That's a tricky one because I understand people saying, well, he said that and he did. That one is understandable that would be a little bit of a debate whether or not that's an official confirmation or not. I'd have to go back and look at his inflection and body language on it. I don't remember. But what I can say is not confirmation this is going to, the heart of whether or not Affleck's going to star in the film. But we've talked about this too, but Affleck sending a tweet welcoming Matt Reeves to the Batcave, or Matt Reeves on the red carpet and being caught off guard by a question about Affleck starring in it, and his answers, I'm paraphrasing, but this is the general sort of attitude he had was, yeah, right now that's what's going on. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, that's what happened. That's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
That's also not a confirmation.
That's exactly was his inflection. It's not. Right.
It was. And like I said, that to me made me feel less inclined to believe that he is returning, not more. Yeah. Now, if Matt Reeves would have said, absolutely, he's returning. We're working on some stuff together right now. We're so excited about this, and I couldn't imagine doing it without Ben. If he would have said that, I would have said, that's a pretty strong, that's a confirmation. But really, a true confirmation is when it is, things are rolling in pre-production, and you have an official statement, you have you have a joint statement, you have what have you. It has to be official, and it's not just ambiguous tweets or little random comments. And listen, on these comments and tweets, there's no inflection, so it's hard, but on these comments too, whether it's Ben Affleck on Jimmy Kimmel, whether it's Matt Reeves on the red carpet, or whoever and whatever. All right, just watch for body language and also look at context. Is that a place that question were they prepared to answer a question like that? Was that question inevitable? And perhaps it was, because unfortunately he can't escape the Batman, which is kind of bullshit right now, because he's out trying to promote this, what I've heard is a brilliant film, and people just won't shut up about Batman.
That is annoying. Let me say this though, that is annoying as hell. And if I were covering Apes, I would not ask him about the Batman, even though I'm Batman on film. I just wouldn't, because that annoys me. But unlike Ben Affleck with Live by Night, getting barraged with Batman questions, Live by Night got hammered critically and at the box office, and Apes is getting critically praised, and it's going to be a huge hit at the box office. So it makes it a little. It makes exactly.
Now, I will say this: Matt Reeves and he seems to be a very cool guy. I've never met him, but he's on Twitter right now, and he's retweeting some tweets from people saying, "Saw Apes, can't wait to see this guy's Batman movie," and he's retweeting a couple of those. And I think that's cool. He is about to embark on Batman. I mean, look, once you're a Batman director, I don't think you can ever escape it. Joel Schumacher even he barely gets away with an interview without somebody asking him about Batman. Yep. He made, undeniably the worst Batman movie. Well, maybe that's debatable.
Oh, come on.
Batman and Robin is considered to be the worst Batman movie ever made.
Silly troll.
And even he can't escape. Well, I don't know. I think there can be an argument.
I could debate. I can argue that.
I could almost make an argument that Batman and Robin's a better movie than Batman Returns. Almost.
No.
Almost.
No. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's denial. That's denial.
Yep. That's silly troll mode right there.
It's not silly troll.
Can I say this though about
you have Flipper Hand Penguin Man trying to kill mass murder babies? I'm sorry. There can be an argument there. But they can't ever escape. Chris Nolan can't escape these questions, so it is what it is. But let the man promote his new film that, by the way, is critically praised, and people are loving it, and people are calling it the best movie of the year. Talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
okay.
And I just stepped off my soapbox.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, thank goodness Matt Reeves is taking over the Batman, because he is a great director, and the stuff he said on this MTV podcast, I mean, he said all the right stuff. He started off by saying that the only way he was able to do the Batman was to and be involved with it is if he was going to be able to do it his way, and that's what he told the studio. And he had to be
that was awesome.
Yeah.
Ryan. Yeah.
And he said he had to be emotionally invested or he wouldn't do it, and that was like his base thing. And he said it was more of he wanted to do it more on a feeling rather than like a story or whatever, which is interesting because I also feel like that's how his Planet of the Apes films kind of play out. It's very character driven, emotion driven. You know what I mean? So he's saying the right stuff, and that really meshes well with what Warner Brothers wants to do, or did, and wants to get back to, I should say, being a director studio and it being a director's medium, like Rick was saying. And to Justin's point, you know, you were talking about like the relationship between the Batman and DCEU stuff. I mean, does Matt Reeves have experience making another entry in a film franchise that he didn't start and yet is able to make his own?
You're
yes,
right.
Yes, he does. And that's exactly what he did with Planet of the Apes. He did not direct the first installment. And then he picked up parts 2 and 3. So
no, I'm glad you brought that up because it does show that he has a respect for what, you know, hey, this is what's been established. Okay, so here's my take on the next part. So
so it's fascinating. I mean, there's also some interviews you can find about him talking about that process and about how they picked up story threads or got rid of certain story threads between films and things like that. And if he takes that approach with the Batman, I think we'll be in good hands. And then of course later on in the MTV interview, they talked about starting again from a new script and everything. And then the last part, and we just talked about that, but the last part that I thought was very interesting also was, you know, he was asked if he's talked to anybody about casting outside of Ben. And he said, no, I have not been doing anything other than working on Planet of the Apes. There's nothing to say about anything. So it's just getting started. There's nothing to talk about. I mean, let the guy promote his film, do his work, and the Batman's going to fall into place the way it needs to. You know, just like Justice League is getting worked on to finish it and make it good. Same thing with the Batman. And my wife was great because last night she let me do a double feature away from home, and I got to see Spider-Man and Planet of the Apes back to back last night. And
nice.
And Planet of the Apes,
how was
Apes was amazing, guys. It is so good.
I'm going tomorrow.
Yeah.
with my son.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if I'm going to go see Spider-Man again or go see Apes.
Go see Apes. Go see Apes.
Did you like Spider-Man?
I love Spider-Man. It was so good. Yeah, it's a great double feature for sure. But I mean, Spider-Man gave me like all the, you know, good Spider-Man characterization stuff, and Michael Keaton's obviously awesome. But then you go into Apes, and I was watching Apes because I already liked the other films, but I was also watching it with the whole like, okay, well, let's see if not thematically, but like you know, just filmmaking wise, what kind of things could we get in the Batman? And, you know, in the new Apes movie, I saw nothing but, you know, perfect top form level filmmaking, top craft, you know, good character work. You know, that score is also very understated and amazing in that movie too. So we've got a good director for the Batman. And I think that is above everything is the most important thing for the movie right now. And I think letting him do what he needs to do to make the movie good is only going to make the movie good.
Yeah. Well, let's move to this part of the show this morning, which is related. With all this about Matt Reeves, he's starting from scratch with the script. He's got a vision for what he wants to do, and so forth. What in terms of, this is completely devil's advocate here, and I wrote an opinion piece, and from that point of view. Playing devil's advocate, it's more of asking a question, trying to ask people to put aside what you want, put aside what your heart is saying, and, you know, think with your head here for a second. What is best for the Batman film franchise? That's what I'm talking about. The Batman film franchise going forward with the Batman or whatever Matt Reeves ends up wanting to call it. Is it best to continue on with Ben Affleck as Batman, or would it be better served to recast? Justin, what's your thoughts?
Man, given his history, I mean, Ryan just touched on it. He can come in and keep the status quo of what's been established, because there is some cool stuff that's been set up for us with. You know, you got, I want to say J. Jonah Jameson as Gordon. I can't think of his name right now. Who is playing Gordon? Whiplash.
You said that out. J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons.
It's hard because J. Jonah Jameson is so close to J.K. Simmons, and I've done the same thing, completely blanked on his name before.
As soon as you said J. Jonah Jameson, I couldn't remember his real name.
He erases it.
Yeah. So there you go. You have stuff like that that's, been established. Not yet, but it's going to happen in November. Hoping that stays on board. And, I think he'd be like, oh, I've got a good cast assembled already. To be honest, it really depends on, and this sounds kind of like a non-answer. It just depends on what he has laid out. You've mentioned a lot, Bill, about doing prequels and stuff. And if that happens, that gives them the opportunity to bring somebody younger in or whatever. I don't know. It just really depends on where Affleck's headspace is. And, that's really it. I know you said don't use your heart, but I want him to stay. But yes. I'm not going to be surprised if he doesn't do it. I'm just not.
My heart is Ben Affleck coming back.
Yeah.
My head is like, is that really best? Because I also throw in, okay, Matt Reeves, it hasn't been said. He's been asked. He's not confirmed it, but I would imagine he's thinking about doing a story that takes place over, 2, maybe 3 films. Do a trilogy. Let's say that.
Yeah.
You're talking 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
10 years. So we're talking about what? Almost, 2027, 29. I mean, 10 years from now does Ben Affleck have 3 more Batman films in him over the next decade, plus a Justice League 2 if they go that route, which I'm going to say right now, that's not even on the table right now, folks. So they're just trying to get through this first one and reestablish the, some of these other characters. So, but say a Justice League 2 or even these cameos in these other films. Does he have that in him? That's what I'm asking that sincerely. And that's why I say what's best. That's why I frame it out what's best, for the franchise going forward. Because look, if Ben's got 1 film left in him and he makes one and it's awesome, well, and then he's done for professional reasons or whatever, I'd rather them recast starting now than doing it midstream. That's just me. I'm just throwing that out there,
No, listen, that's where I stand with this thing. Look, we talk about what's best for the film. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. And I don't mean to try to skate on that. I don't know, because I don't know what's best for the film is what's best for Matt Reeves' vision. And I don't know exactly what that vision is. So it's hard for me to answer that question. I will say this, and I've said it a million times. I really was pretty shocked by how much I liked Ben Affleck in that role. I was not one of those people that were all that excited when he was cast, and he won me over. He really did. He's not Christian Bale. Christian Bale is a masterful actor. And quite frankly, my second favorite Batman is Michael Keaton. Affleck is third, but that's okay because that's great company. And I really like Val Kilmer as Batman, as well. And Affleck is still my third favorite. I think he has the ability to carry a fantastic, epic Batman film, and I would love to see him do it because I know that he wants to. One of the things that won me over with Affleck is I had to remind myself, like, this is a guy that's like buddies with Kevin Smith and people of that ilk. He's a comic book guy. Like, this shit really does mean something to him. In a lot of ways, he's probably more prepared to play Batman than any person before him ever was, because all those other actors ran around and did their own research. Affleck's like, I got this. I know this character. I know Batman. And that's cool. I admire that about him. And amongst other things, but that's one thing I really love about Affleck. And so I want to see him do it. And I don't want to see it get recast because, quite frankly, it's like, look, we had this masterful trilogy, at least in my opinion, with an amazing actor playing Batman Bruce Wayne. I didn't really care for it to be rebooted as fast as it was. And then when it was Affleck, I'm like, oh, really? Okay. I mean, there's things that he's done I like, but I just don't see it. But, then he wins me over. I'm going, wow. And even though I walked away from BVS, I initially liked it better than I do now. I'm not going to hide or run from my initial review. But I never had any doubt that he was great in it, ever. In fact, the less I started to like or dislike the film as years went on and I would watch it more, it almost elevated his performance and others in the film as well. I'm like, man, really? What I think I liked about this movie initially was the cast, because the movie is a mess to me, but man, the cast is good. I mean, everybody is great. And, and that's a big deal to say that about my favorite character in the film is obviously Batman. I just don't know if that's the best thing for this film because I don't know the vision and I don't want to see him get rebooted because, you know, he won me over when at a time I didn't think I could be won over. Now I've got to do it again. The way I have to look at it is inevitably this film is going to get made. And at least right now we have an idea of the direction it's going to go in. And we know the director is, we know the style that this director possesses. And so we can personalize it a little more. So maybe it's a little easier to accept a new character, especially if it's a prequel. Like if they're going to recast, if he's not going to do it, I want it to be a prequel. And then there's two things to that for me. One,
Rick loves prequels.
Yeah, I love Forrest Gump. I really want Bruce Wayne in a pod race scene.
Sorry.
Totally fight Darth Maul. Anyway, but the reason I want it to be a prequel is because it's twofold, right? First of all, it justifies the recasting in a way that it's not another actor just stepping in. There's a legitimate reason for it because it's going back, 15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. But it also is a way for Affleck to bow out of this thing gracefully, right? Like, it makes more sense for a younger actor to play. And then let's just say hypothetically that it is a prequel and it's well, really it's threefold because another thing it doesn't have to do, it doesn't have to acknowledge the events from BVS on. And I, for one, like that because there is no Superman yet. There's no Wonder Woman. There's certainly not a Doomsday and there's no Aquaman. And I prefer my Batman on film to live in that world and that world would exist. So that's another part that's cool. But who knows? Maybe they could do prequels and they work. And I say prequels, 1 or 2 films. And maybe Justice League works, and maybe there is a Justice League 2. Who knows? Maybe Ben Affleck comes back and reprises his role 5 years down the road because it's the same continuity.
Matt Reeves is good at making prequels too.
Right? Who knows? So I've said for months now that I think it's 60-40 that he's going to play him. And yes, this is completely me pulling this out of my ass, guys, but it's an educated guess and it's a feeling. 60-40. That is now swiped. I think it's getting less likely he's going to do this film.
What? Let me ask this. What if he just doesn't want to do it?
That's just it. That could be another part of it. I think that's probably going to be more of the reason than anything. I certainly don't think he would be pushed out. Okay. Because I just don't. Even though I don't think people are emotionally invested in this Batman, meaning before I get killed on Twitter here, yes, us as fans of Batman are, but the mainstream audience members are not. If he's recast, 90% of the people that would go see that movie probably wouldn't even care. It would just be a new Batman because they're not emotionally invested in this character yet. But, so I don't think he would get pushed out, but he just may not want to do it. And if he doesn't, then, maybe that's what's sort of inspiring the direction. Maybe Matt Reeves says, all right, Affleck's out. So I'll tell you what, I have a vision for, let's go back 20 years. And, hey, listen, and Affleck looks great, right? I'm not here to say that they couldn't go back 10, 15, 20 years and he still couldn't play the part. I think they could probably. I think they could pull that off, right? Because he's aging very well.
Yes.
Right?
He could play a 30-year-old. He could play a 30-ish Batman easy.
Sure.
Easy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he looks younger now than Keaton looked in '89, and Keaton killed it. And that was, a quasi origin story.
All right. Justin, what's your thoughts regarding prequel, recasting? I've never suggested that Reeves do a reboot. So anyone who read my opinion piece, a lot of times people comment on my opinion pieces and they don't even read it. Or,
yeah.
Or they comment on the podcast and they haven't listened to the podcast or what any of us said,
Yeah,
and they have no idea. Me. Yeah, that's annoying as hell. So, look, if you're going to make a comment, especially a negative one, at least read or listen before doing so, please. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I've never said reboot. I've said that the fact that Ben Affleck, the Batman, I'm not even going to say Ben Affleck, the Batman in the DCEU that was in BVS and it's in Justice League has been Batman for 20 plus years. So there is a quote unquote out, for Ben Affleck, for Warner Brothers, for Matt Reeves, if for whatever reason Ben says, I just don't do this anymore. or Reeves says, I kind of want to go and with a younger in his prime. I mean, whatever the reason is, I'm just speculating here.
Yeah.
There is an out in terms of the prequel. But there's a lot to say about, movies with an older Batman, which we've never really seen that except for BVS. And that's not supposed to be a Batman film, but it really is because it's Batman v Superman. And he was in most of the stuff, but whatever. I'll digress. So Justin, just thoughts on that. We'll start wrapping this up, dude.
Yeah. As far as getting a younger guy in to do some, not a reboot, doing some like prequel stuff. Yeah, I think that could work.
It's a soft reboot, right?
I think it could work if they need to tell the early days. And there's, again, I just like said that, that'd be interesting to see where he was and how he got to BVS, what happened, what transpired to change him. Maybe he doesn't want to, that's the one thing. I don't know if he wants to build up to that story. I think he'd rather build off of that story. Because let's be honest,
both, in one movie.
And maybe you can. I just feel like if he wants to come in and write in like his own take, his own story, I think it would be something that moves forward and not or just completely avoid ending up at BVS. Who knows on that point? But I'm not concerned either way. I'm really not. I just think that having Matt Reeves on board, whatever he wants to do, is, bound to be excellent. And it's only good for us as Batman fans, So yeah. I just don't have any contention, that's really hard. I'm just, hey man, I'm excited to see what he wants to do.
With Reeves in charge and everyone excited about it, there's really, whatever he does is not going to disappoint me. I'll just say, okay, well, that's what he wants to do. Yeah, Ben Affleck, kick some more ass for another 10 years as Batman. That's fine. Hey, Ben, thanks for doing what you did for a couple of movies and appreciate it. Who knows? But I'm excited for the possibility. So Ryan, what's your thoughts up here in summary?
Well, in the article, it was like, well, what do you want to happen with Affleck and the Batman and everything? But my main overarching point is, I want Matt Reeves to do whatever Matt Reeves wants to do. He's the director now, and he's kind of the spearhead of the Batman sector of the DCEU, Yeah. And I don't want Reeves or WB to do anything that affects a film or series of films just because Affleck theoretically might want out. Like, I don't want him to do a prequel just because, we can do this because Affleck wants out, or let's make Nightwing Batman just because Affleck wants out. I don't want any of that external stuff to affect what goes on in the films, like, at all. I don't think they should have to be beholden to that. So I just want them to make the movie they want to make, and if Affleck fits into it, great. And if it doesn't, recast. Whether that's a prequel or a, present or whatever. And on Affleck, on one hand, it's kind of strange to me if he'd want out, because you'd assume that he knew that he was signing up for a bunch of movies as Batman going into BVS. It's a cinematic universe. It's not like they didn't know that. But on the other hand, I do think that the I do think the DCEU had a different story trajectory at that time than it does now, because I read articles about how, this universe has a finite ending, and there are a certain amount of films, and there's Justice League 2, and all the arcs are going somewhere and stuff like that. And that might be what he signed up for, and I think that that's not the case anymore. I think that I think a lot of that has changed, vision wise and film wise and slate wise. So that might be a sticking point, and because there's probably not an end. But my bottom line is, I want Reeves to be able to make the film he wants. And in terms of a trilogy, did you guys hear or read Reeves's comments on a trilogy, a Batman trilogy?
I did. Go ahead, paraphrase, or if you've got it, read what he said.
I've got it. Okay. It's an art, and it's really good stuff. It's an interview with Fandango, and he was asked about a Batman trilogy, and Reeves said, I have ideas about an arc, but really the important thing is just to start. You have to start with one movie. He says, you have to start with a story that begins something, like Batman Begins, maybe. And I would be lying if I could tell you that the arcs of the Apes movies was already planned out, because it simply wasn't. One of the things where the character was so potent and the possibility was embedded from that beginning, but exactly how you got from A to Z is not something that existed. And then he goes on to say, when he came on Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the story that I wanted to tell was different from the story that they had even presented me. And so there are these broad ideas that sort of came to mind as Rise was created of how that story could be told, but they weren't explicitly laid out. And when Mark, his screenwriting partner, and Reeves began Dawn, he says that we knew what our goals were, but we didn't know how we were going to get there. And I would say that more relates to the way I see a Batman story. It's kind of an ambition for a series of stories, but really the most important thing is going to be to tell a vital first story.
Well, two things. Just keep your eye out on his writing partner. I'm just saying that right now. And secondly, sounds a lot like the approach Nolan took with the Dark Knight trilogy.
Exactly.
Let's just make this film best it can be, and sequel take care of itself if there's going to be one.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm on board with that, and I agree with you, Ryan. I'm with you. Whatever Reeves wants to do, I'll be happy with. My heart is Ben Affleck, but my mind says whatever Reeves wants. If that's kind of a cop out, but that's what it is. Rick, what's your heart say? You want?
Well, my heart says
Ben back?
I have to just say this, and I know I'm going to get pushback on it, but when you guys talk about these directors making these films in a vacuum, not thinking about a sequel, I call a little bit of BS on that. Of course they are. They have to. They are. They did. Nolan did. I guarantee you he did. Doesn't mean that it affected the integrity of that film. It didn't mean that he made a crucial decision just by virtue of there having to be a sequel. I believe that he was committed to a story, but it was there, and even if it was subliminal, it helped, or it affected the way that film was made in some way. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to
call bullshit on your bullshit, because
oh dear,
the way you word it, Rick, is, and present your case, is that they almost had the whole three films outlined and lined up, and there were just.
That's not what I said. That's not.
Well, that's what. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I didn't
say explain, man. Explain.
I didn't say the film's being outlined. In fact, I said to the contrary. I do believe that they made decisions for just that movie in a lot of ways, but to think that it wasn't there and it wasn't being thought about or discussed, I think that's nonsense.
Oh, I've never said that. Okay, I know that for a fact. I mean, look, I'll give you Begins. I mean, look, the Joker card. Come on, it's obvious. But
you really think the Dark Knight, he was going to end it as Batman being a fugitive and running away, and everybody thought he murdered Harvey Dent? Come on, no. I think
no
way he'd end those films like that. No way.
What are you saying?
What I'm saying is that Dark Knight,
I don't get your point.
The third film was they knew they were going to do a third one. That's my point. They knew it.
Okay.
Okay, the implication is they weren't sure they were going to do another one. Let's just see if this one takes care of itself, and then maybe we'll think about a sequel.
Oh, well,
but that's what you guys say, though. I promise you, they
movie-wise, movies not saying we're not going to hold something back.
Yeah.
Out of the Dark Knight, because we want to do the Dark Knight Rises,
and they don't have
if they'll pull tape on previous where have said.
I've said yes. Don't hold back. I'm not saying he never planned to do a trilogy, because he said I always envisioned 3 films, a trilogy. What I'm saying is when they were writing the film, especially The Dark Knight, and even more so Rises, when they're writing The Dark Knight, they weren't saying, okay, let's don't put this in here. We'll save it for the third film. Yeah. No, let's don't do that. We're going to save it for the third film. Because if they had done that, they would have kept Two-Face's ass alive and have him be the villain in the third film. So
we have had quotes on this show where it's that Nolan has stated, "Hey, listen, if you know, if we're not, you know, we may do another one. I don't know. It doesn't matter. You know, this film, if you know, maybe we'll get to it, maybe not, or whatever." And what I'm saying is that kind of mentality, I promise you, didn't exist. It was always about the next one.
Ryan, help me out.
It'll be that way with Reeves, I promise.
Christopher Nolan absolutely makes one movie at a time, and he does not think about the next one. That's
nonsense.
For all of his movies, every single one.
He absolutely,
and you know what?
Making those Batman films, thought about the sequel. That's nonsense.
And
I don't buy that.
You see a lot of that in the quote I read from Matt Reeves about the Apes movies too. Like they might, and it's true for both of them. They might have seeds of ideas that kind of might work for the next movie, but they're really not thinking about the next movie as a whole thing. You know, because
that I believe that's a different.
Yeah, because Reeves and Nolan both, Matt Reeves spent.
Look, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Matt Reeves.
I think there's a fundamental difference in the way Nolan and apparently Reeves approach those films and will approach these films versus someone that's making, you know, maybe an Iron Man film going, okay, so these things have to happen in the second one. It's all about the sequel. I do believe that they create these films individually, but there are conversations and they know that they have to honor some things because they know they're going to do another one.
Well,
and listen,
here's the thing for me, it's for them, it's less, it feels like it's less about fitting into a cinematic universe per se and more about exploiting and using the creative process to their advantage to find the film that they're actually working on. And if their story threads follow into a trilogy, great, but it's not something they're doing all at once. And it's like, you know, Matt Reeves spent 3 years on the new Apes movie. And, you know, all his energy's into that. It's not going to be like, okay, let's save all this stuff for the next movie.
Yes, and that's the whole point. It's not like Nolan and Jonathan Nolan and Goyer were sitting down, and Goyer, and the way it worked, apparently what they said is they would pitch to Chris, pitch ideas. And
almost like they had to convince him.
Yeah. And they would pitch him like, well, what about this and that? And he'd say, nope, boys, we're going to save that for the third film. So I need something else.
But you have said on this show that even when they were making The Dark Knight, that Nolan didn't know if he was going to make another one or not, and didn't approach The Dark Knight at all like he was.
That's not what that was not my point. Then you
could have ended the whole thing on The Dark Knight. We didn't know. And what I'm saying,
it could have. Look here, it could have ended with The Dark Knight easily.
It could have.
Oh, yes, it could have. Yes, it could have. Absolutely could have ended with The Dark Knight.
The studio would have stepped in and brought in another director to finish that story.
Oh, yeah. I'm talking from Chris's point of view.
Right. Well,
I'm talking from Nolan's point of view.
But Nolan knew that. At the very, very least, he knew that. And if he was anything...
I guarantee you he did not have a clue of what was going to go in The Dark Knight Rises when he was making The Dark Knight. Not a single clue.
Yeah, because Heath Ledger passing away kind of threw a wrench in all that, too.
I threw a wrench, and I'm not convinced that Heath would have came back, especially as a main villain, but I'm telling you, because don't tell me there wasn't thoughts or pushback from the studio saying, let's keep Two-Face for the villain in number 3. But then when they were writing that film, it figured that organically, that film became the main story arc, the main character arc was Harvey Dent. I mean, it was the whole film, basically. And so, no, I get what you're saying, Rick. I think you're taking what I said a little bit too literally. I'm
looking at this from 30,000 feet. I'm not just responding to just comments on this episode. We have talked about this on previous shows as well.
Yep.
And part of me wasn't going to push back on that because it's sort of futile, but when I say I get annoyed, I don't mean I get annoyed with you guys. I'm saying that when I hear even someone like Nolan say stuff like that, I'm like,
oh, go ahead and say it. You're annoyed with me right now because I'm annoyed with you.
No,
so
I'm actually. You're entertaining me right now. Boy, this is great. Kidding? This is great radio.
This conversation again.
I just sent a private message to you guys on this at Rock and Roll Radio. I hear that stuff. I'm like, bullshit. That's all.
Oh, I just differ with you in that I think it's way more organic than your.
I know, just every one of those films had the perfect ending to a cliffhanger for the next one. I know, total coincidence. Anyway, moving on. All right, so where's my heart in my head? Right? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Here's a question I want to pose to everyone. I'll say this, and then I'm going to pose my question. So I've said it earlier, and I've said it a million times, Affleck won me over. I really like him in the role, and I wanted to see him continue. At this point in time, I'm not convinced that he wants to. I'm not necessarily convinced it's the best thing for Matt Reeves' vision. I'm only speculating about his vision, so I could be wrong. But at the end of the day, our mainstream audience is invested in this Bruce Wayne, right? And I don't think they are.
They're invested in Batman. They're invested in that warehouse fight and that costume.
Well, here's a question I want to pose to you guys. And if you don't mind just humoring me on this little exercise, we'll go in a quick circle and just, give me an answer. And if there's a point. Okay. I appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, Bill, start with you, please.
All right.
Were you more emotionally invested in Ben Affleck's Batman or Edward Norton's Bruce Banner?
Whoa. That's out of the blue.
Well, there's a point to that. I've got a point I'm going to make here. Okay.
I can't. I'll say this. Jeez. I was not invested in this Batman emotionally, the Batman v Superman Batman at all.
Were you invested in Edward Norton's performance in The Incredible Hulk?
A little bit.
Were you excited to see him, especially at the end when Tony Stark came in? Like, oh, cool, this is leading to the Avengers. I was pumped. I was really excited.
Not a fan of that stuff, so I would be.
I am for Marvel. I'm not for DC. Okay, Justin, what your thoughts, sir? Which one are you more invested? Were you more invested in?
Wow, that's actually a really good question. I was really disappointed when Norton didn't reprise the role because I really liked what he did in The Incredible Hulk. I'll answer it that way because
me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Okay. And I like what Affleck did in BVS. I like The Incredible Hulk better as a movie, but I like what Affleck did in BVS.
Yeah.
Ryan?
Affleck as Batman because I'm always going to be more invested in Batman versus any other comic book character. But to me...
So what you're saying is Batman and Robin is a better movie than Spider-Man Homecoming?
No.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No. I'm just saying on a base level, I'm always going to watch the Batman movies, and I'm always going to be invested in Batman. But here's the thing.
What about the performance? What about the performance? What about the writing and everything?
The return on my emotional investment was not returned, in BVS. It's like reading a comic book and hoping that it's good and all the wrong things happen in it, and you're going to buy the next issue because you got to get through this arc to get to the, when the new writer comes on, and hopefully he'll do a better job. But that's kind of how it feels to me,
How many films has Mark Ruffalo now done as Hulk?
Like three.
Three? Yeah,
well, he had Avengers, Avengers 2. He showed up at the end of Iron Man 3, but he wasn't Hulk.
Yeah, and then he's going to be in.
Man, I like Iron Man 3,
dude.
So here's my point. To this day, he's now been the Hulk. He's the face of the Hulk. Has been for years, a decade.
Well, here's the thing. I actually now prefer him over Norton.
How did it take a few films though?
No, actually, in Avengers, he won me over. I was like, okay. You know what? I think I like him better.
Okay,
it was just. Cool. It just he kind of it was one of those things where you really wanted something else, and then the other thing, like, you know what, man, this was actually I can see this worked. Yeah, it's the same thing with Don Cheadle taking over for.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah, man, I did not like
Terrence.
What was his name? Yeah, Terrence Howard was terrible as Rhodey. He was whiny, and then I did not like him in that movie. And when they said Don Cheadle was taking over, I was like, dude, go back and re-edit that movie and put him in it because I like Don Cheadle way better as an actor, and he just seemed like he had better chemistry too with, Robert Downey Jr.
Well, and that's great, and and Mark Ruffalo's a great actor. Ben Affleck's a really strong actor as well. I like both those guys. My point to all this was
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, well, I know where he's going and maybe you do. And listen, hey, Bill, If I don't go where you think, please let me know because I'm interested to see what you're going to say.
Yeah.
For me personally, this is just me. To this day, I'm still bummed that Edward Norton's not Hulk.
Okay.
I like Mark Ruffalo a lot, I do, but I just kind of wish he would have done it. And so I could see feeling that way about Affleck, considering it's in the same universe. We only had that happen once with Batman on film, and it was Val Kilmer from the Burton films. But man, visually, stylistically, those Joe Schumacher films are so different that to me, it's just like it's barely in the same universe. It's more just a wink to it than it is really truly existing in that world, right? With some crossover actors and everything. I feel like with Affleck to a new actor playing him in real time, I probably could have a very similar feeling as I do with the Ed Norton, Mark Ruffalo thing. I just feel like in my heart, if they're going to do this, please go back and tell stories 15, 20 years ago. Recast as a younger actor in prequels. Don't put him in real time recasting.
Here's a good point. You started off with Edward Norton in a solo Hulk film, but then since then, all you've got with the recasted Hulk is the Hulk in the, cinematic universe films. If Affleck happened to get recast or left or whatever, you'd have the opposite. You'd have the Batman actor starting out in the combined films, and then once you get to the solo films, you'd get a different actor.
Yeah, I think Edward Norton has been able to do more did more in that one film with Banner than Affleck was able to do in BVS and Suicide Squad. Just by virtue.
Here's where I thought you were going with it, and I like where you actually went with it.
On the same page on this, by the way.
I thought your point was going to be at the end is that, you can be disappointed when an actor is replaced in a role, but you can end up liking his replacement just as much or more.
Well, that point still stands. Yes. Because mine was just my personal opinion. Yeah. You're right. That point is just as valid, and Justin echoes that. But I just think at the end of the day, for me, again, you were just asking me a direct question how I feel personally. Yeah. If he is recast, which I kind of think he's probably going to be at this point, and I'll be pleasantly surprised if he's not. But I want them to go backwards. And also, like I said earlier, it gives them an opportunity to tell Batman stories. And there's not God.
You won't have the baggage, and I don't mean it negatively. You don't have to account for what's going on in other films if you do prequels.
But exactly,
it's still in the same universe. You're not breaking off and becoming a separate. It's not a reboot. But, it's before there was Superman and, of course, Wonder Woman still existed, but you don't have to bring her up and so forth and so on. You've got a little bit more, to me, it gives you maybe a little bit more creative freedom if you go the younger Batman route. But look, I'm not, and I'm just giving my point. Okay. My heart is Ben Affleck. My head I'm with you, Ryan, whatever Matt Reeves wants to do. I would say, only thing I would say is that if Ben doesn't want to do it anymore or whatever, I'd rather recast now than, him do one film and then do it. But that goes back to the point of where you can get over, I don't think the mainstream audience, it bothers them with a recasting of a role as much as, it affects fans, because I've seen some of the stuff on Twitter and Facebook. Like, it's confusing to people. Well, no, it's not really, because, Batman Forever made more money than Batman Returns, and there was two different actors playing the same Batman, essentially. So, and you know what? Ben Affleck's there's going to be somebody else play Batman eventually anyway. I mean, it's not like he's going to play Batman forever. So, no pun intended. So, but that's where I'm at. My heart, if you've known this site, if you know this podcast, I was a Ben Affleck as Batman guy in '98 when there was talk of doing Year One, and I always wanted him to direct a Batman film after Nolan, but so much for that now. But anyway, all right, guys, go ahead and finish up.
Yeah, I mean, my point to my counterpoint or my butt to the point of let's just do a prequel or whatever is, I want them to be able to use Batman in Nightwing or Batgirl or Gotham City Sirens. I want them to have the option, and simply just doing prequels doesn't account for that, because they'd still have to have the same, they still have the same thing to deal with regardless. So,
yeah, I hear you. I'm not sure that we're going to see Gotham City Sirens, but that's a whole different topic. But
spin-off movies.
Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got nothing else to say. I feel like I've said my part on all this. There's just not enough information out there either to really form any type of opinion other than let Reeves do what he wants to do. And then I hope Affleck stays. But if he doesn't, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that sums it up as a group. Yeah, as all of us. I think we all want Ben to return and would be very happy if that happens, but we're not going to have an episode and throw a tantrum if things change. All right. Rick, plug something, dude.
Follow me on Twitter, ShewRick, ShewRick. Follow me at Left Shew Politic, SHEW, if you're into politics. And if you're into Star Wars, do yourself a favor and go back and search our Batman on Film Star Wars podcast. Our last one was about the prequels. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be doing another one at some point. But we have a lot of exciting podcasts on this show coming up, this main mothership show, including an analysis of the very, I don't want to even call it underrated because it's not, but the quasi-contentious, brilliant, epic John Blake as Robin, Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, God.
Rick, was the KG Beast in that meeting too?
I think I tweeted that I think that Ivan Drago was in the meeting.
Okay, all right, just asking.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, what you got?
Oh, I'm busy doing dad stuff right now. So for now, just follow me on Twitter at SMB_Ryan. And when it's 5 a.m. and I'm awake feeding a baby, I will respond to you.
Ryan, you've been a little salty on Twitter every once in a while. I've been proud of you, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's maybe it's just the 5 a.m. dad in me now. I'm just like, oh, you said this, I'm going to say this, But I'm just trying to have fun with it.
Yes, sir. Justin.
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter at J_Rocka, and then please check out the letsgocast.com for some other shows if you like the sound of my voice and all of my thoughts. Hey, go check that out. That'd be awesome.
It's like you're doing like some kind of 70s smooth music,
You're listening to Batman on Film.
Hey, did you like that the Let's Go song was in Spider-Man Homecoming?
Oh, that was pretty awesome. My 8-year-old son, I named him after the Ramones, so his middle name is Ramon. And he looked over at me and said, "Dad, the Ramones."
All right, so
the Ghostbusters song was great too.
Since we've all seen it, isn't I don't mean the end credits, but isn't just the last scene awesome?
The mid-credits scene.
The last scene?
Yeah, I don't want to.
The ending.
Yeah,
the ending.
Yeah,
it was perfect.
That was
so perfect.
That was really funny. That was really funny.
That's a lot of fun. That's a great way to make it.
Yeah.
All right, so for Rick and Ryan and Justin, I am Bill. Announcer Rachel will take us out. Announcer Rachel snapback is almost 100%. Boys, she's doing very well.
That's awesome.
Great.
Yeah, doing good. All right, Rachel, take us out. We'll catch you next time.
Hey now! You've been listening to the Batman on Film podcast, a proud member and the sponsor of the Batman Podcast Network, BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. You can listen to the BOF podcast on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, TuneIn, and wherever good podcasts like this one can be found. Want to advertise on the BOF podcast? Go to advertisecast.com/the Batman on Film Con podcast. Follow Jett on Twitter at Batman on Film and on BOF's Facebook fan page at facebook.com/Jett.BatmanOnFilm. Email Jett via Jett@batman-on-film.com. Follow Rick on Twitter at ShewRick and on Facebook at facebook.com/BOF-Shew. For Jett, Rick, Justin, and Ryan, I'm announcer Rachel. Thanks for listening.